beans, full bore. Back in the shop and twiddling wrenches on crap. Yeah, she's stuck. Blowed her up real good. So I went down to the basement, got myself, there we go, coffee can. That's for all the bolts we're going to save. Let's take a look inside the bag. Alright, we got some of our favorite rainbow wrenches from Hazard Fraught. A trusty Popular Mechanics socket handle. Ooh. Fancy toys. Yeah, DeWalt, good old 18-volt version. She gets the job done. And then we got some Chrome Boy wrenches down in there and some pliers and other stuff. Basically, we're just going to dip into finding out why this thing decided it didn't want to live anymore. More to come. The first thing we're going to concern ourselves with is getting the cover off the primary drive. We'll go ahead and skip ahead on that. There's a little surprise. I wasn't expecting that. Rather than a regular old bolt that I figured would be stuck in there, we got a little Allen key. She is so stuck. Check this out. It does nothing. It will not budge. It doesn't even clank. We did get lucky. When she locked up at the key point in the right way. I've got to go take a trip down to the tool bench. Just realized that guy not doing his job. It won't stay running for more than 6 or 7 seconds at a time. Maybe someone knows more about Nikons than I do. So we've missed out on a bunch of entertainment gold. But funny enough, yep, I got a set of good old Craftsman Allen key sockets. I don't know, I've had these 20 plus years, so they're still from when Craftsman was decent. Didn't even realize it. I cannot find my set of standards, so here's some of those overseas measurements, metric. Handed wrenching, got her set to pull out. We're working with here. Do I need to get a puller, or chiseling a hammer? Semi press fit kind of thing. Let's see here. What do we got to work with? The right tool for the job. Ho ho! Look at that. Yeah, you get the idea. It's almost like maybe at some point somebody did some work and, I don't know, hashed up the end of the shaft a little bit, maybe peened it over some, because it's not even a press fit, but it's hanging up on something. More to come. What you know, all it took was gentle persuasion. Got the keyway with the Woodruff key in there. Not too bad. It can be reused. We want to make sure we hold on to this because we do want to repower this machine, and yeah, we're going to need this to make sure that we can get the right engine. Got to make sure that crank matches up on this drive pulley. Back in 1978, they basically set this thing up so that it's just, you know, give it the beans, full bore. Only thing it had was a little chokey cable here. I literally just pulled that off. Now I just gotta undo his mount down there, and then it's time to get the actual engine off the frame. So, carburetor linkage is loose. This guy can just lay off to the side here. That's mounted to the back half of the frame, not the engine. We've got the primary drive pulleys pulled off. I think about the only thing we had to do is 1, 2, and then there should be 3 and 4 in the back, and then from there lift it off and haul it down to the workbench. Then we can see what's happening inside its guts. Always make sure you clean up your grease and oil, Dave. Yeah, sure, that's what they say, but you know what, this thing's greasy, it's oily, it's been leaked on, it's been spilled on, it's been wrenched on over the years. And if I can get in on this one, I might have to get a box wrench for that. But every last bolt I've touched on this thing has been just tight enough to do its job, but not so tight that it doesn't back out easy. Yeah. Designed to leak. When it stops leaking, you know you're out of oil. With that, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, she's free. I'm going to throw her in a box, just so I don't smear stuff on myself and the walls of the house. And we're going to take her down to the basement and figure out what killed it. Will I drain the gas? Nah, maybe not. We'll figure it out. Alrighty. Fresh glass of jiggle juice. Just as black as the oil in all my vehicles. Some cleaning supplies. Let's get down to business. We've got her on the bench. Down in the clean room, because it, high performance down here. Precision engine building. Good old 1977, 1978, whatever it was. 5-horse, Briggs and Stratton, 200 cc's and change, air-cooled, flathead, cast aluminum head. I believe the cylinder on this is iron. The block feels like it's cast aluminum. It's actually really dang light. I was impressed with that. Because this thing works hard and long, it's got the monster size fuel tank stuck to it. Whichever carburetor this is. Push, pulley, choke action. Oh, look at that. You know what? Is that a diaphragm carb? Interesting. Interesting. Huh. Alright, yeah, because we've got... Yeah, there's a PCV line. I'll show you some funny stuff in a minute. The record. When I started this thing up last month, it had oil in it. I topped it off. And I made sure it kept oil in it. It was a little low here and there, but I had about 4 hours of runtime on it. It does not have oil in it now. I dumped it. I've got video I'm going to try and find that shows you just how much glitter was in this thing. So we know it was some sort of catastrophic failure inside. Can't decide if I want to do some cleaning first or some disassembly from the top down. Clean. Little rag wipe. Oh man, some of this grease and gunk on here. I'm willing to bet it's older than my brother. As far as I know, this motor has never been off that frame. So, yeah, alright, well, that's a good start for just keeping our hands a little bit cleaner. Let's dive into some other stuff. Since I'm not terribly familiar with the whole diaphragm carb setup on this particular version, I figure we'll take a peek at him first, just so we can see what's doing. No, it's funny, this thing. Oh, she funky. Look at that. That is supposed to be a gasoline-soaked foam air filter that should fill that entire box. We might have what could be considered an early clue. Let's keep digging. Sure, this isn't exactly the most efficient carburetor design you've ever seen. Look at the turn you got to make with the air. That's a full 90-degree turn, and this guy should be... Yeah, that looks like some sort of choking device. And then you've got your mixture screws, and then yeah, this would be alright. Yeah, so I bet this is how this works. Every time the piston drops in the cylinder, you get a pulse of air pushing towards the carburetor, and that bad boy ends up actuating all of the mess up in here. Yeah, there's the governor. Yeah, that governor cable, you can see him down in there. He's unhooked, so we can go ahead and see about undoing the combination of this fuel tank and this carburetor and see what we get. Big Daddy screwdriver. Alright, the carburetor is screwed down, bolted directly to the fuel tank. I just took off the bracket on the bottom side that contains the entire governor assembly and the mount for the fuel tank. So really, I'm just going to undo this little Phillips head right here and the air hose that goes to the crankcase. That way, I should be able, having unhooked the tank bracket from the crankcase, to just pull out the intake manifold nuts, bolts, screws? Yeah, screws, whatever they are. And we can move forward from there. Alright, so we got the pulse tube from the crank unhooked. And here's what 40 years of use does. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. The intake manifold's loose. Let's see how bad that is once we get inside there. Alright, we couldn't quite get into this intake bolt screw. What size is he? He's not 7/16. 3/8. That it is. These things are so gunked up you can't quite tell what size they are. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pull these out. I'll set you down. Keep you on second camera as well. I'll be right back. Yeah, it'll move on the port, but I'm still trying to get down into that screw nut combo, screw bolt combo, right down in there in the center. She's gummy, but she'll come. It's just a matter of getting the wrench head down in there. Alright, we're getting close. Almost time for battery on the camera too. It's 1/8 of a turn. A little bit here, a little bit there. It's a shame they haven't invented smell-o-vision for real yet, because I love the way these things smell. An old motor like this, it's that combination of grease and obsolete fuel from way back in the day, before they started putting corn in it. Don't worry, I'm not actually cutting anything. I just want to pinch on this spring and pop it out. Ooh, what's that for? That runs the fan. The fan has a little blade inside here that ends up running this linkage back and forth, which then attaches up to there with another piece of linkage. This little doodad hanging off here. Yeah, there he goes. Alright, this looks like it. Hold on. Gear drive. We got ourselves what might be some kind of gear drive governor. This would have been the hot ticket, you know, when I was a kid. If you had a buddy with a 3 horsepower go-kart, and you knew someplace you could find a rototiller and swipe the 5 horse motor off of, you were hot rodding. Alright, let's clean our space up here, change a battery, and we'll be right back. Just tried going at her with the brake clean and a rag, and guess what? She's, son, she is petrified in here. We don't need to keep it clean in here or anything. Not like we're trying to save it. But I'm going to attack this. A little scraper action. Definitely not using a screwdriver because, you know, proper tool for the job. Oh, that's thick. Ooh. Yeah, we're going to get after and we'll be right back. New battery on, old battery charging. Alright, so we got the sides cleaned up a little bit here just so we can see some stuff. I don't know how well you can see on that camera, but I'm absolutely fascinated by the fact that your exhaust port is bigger than your intake port. It's usually the other way around on most 4-stroke engines, but I don't know. Briggs knew what they were doing. Maybe by having a larger exhaust port, as it expels hot exhaust, it gives that port more surface area to dissipate heat. We can see our valves down in there. Intake side, she's a little oily, little gummy. Exhaust side, she's carbony. Yeah, she's old. Jitter juice. Alright guys, I love this. Now while we're looking this thing over, this has a Sears, I can add the picture there, Sears service spark plug in it. I assume that's either factory, came OEM like that, or at some point it was taken into Sears, or someone went shopping at Sears and bought service parts for it just because it was the easiest way. Back in the day, you took the catalog number for this machine, which was, you know, 900.529545, or, you know, some mess like that. I'm making those numbers up. Do not quote me on using those numbers for this machine. And you could buy all your service parts for it. So let's go ahead and break this bad boy loose. Right tool for the job. Ash, you don't want to come with that. I'm lazy. So lazy. Actual spark plug socket. I know. I own one somewhere. I know I have one somewhere. I got one for about every spark plug in the world. Except some of those giant 1930s looking pieces. The size of coffee cans. Alright, let's take a look. Ooh. There is oil. There is carbon. Oh my god, the deposits in that thing. That's a horror show. I wouldn't even want to try and clean that up and run it. But yet, it ran this plug right up until its demise. Yeah, okay. This might be a 40 whatever year old spark plug from when it was bought new. Onward. Let's see about digging into the cylinder head. Alright. Head bolts. That one's still in there. They're different lengths. Long boy. First one was a short boy. And back the rest of the way out. Yeah, some of these are the long ones. But one of these days, I'm going to be able to afford like a good camera meant for video and not have to repurpose a DSLR. So, you know how we get to that point? You guys get to hit that like and subscribe button combo, you know, do the whole bell thingy. Tell your friends about it, subscribe. I mean, really, I'm just a dude stuck in this whole, you know, quarantine, finding something to do. So let's have some fun. Let's keep digging. It looks like we're showing about 2 minutes remaining on that setup over there. And, ooh, alright. Cylinder head, hardly held down. You know what? Head gasket's good. You could scuff her with a little brass brush and put her back to work. Look down in the cylinder here. Yeah, that almost looks like actual dirt. It's sucked into this thing over the years. Let's see what we're scraping on here. Yeah, that's all sorts of funky, nasty residue. Intake valve. She spins. Exhaust valve doesn't move. Look at that. That intake valve wouldn't seal on anything. It might be right on getting ready to close on the base circle or getting ready to open on the lobe. Let's see. Top of the piston. That's thick. That's not hard carbon. That's thick oil, but she's a factory piston. Let's try and get a look at the cylinder walls. No scoring that is absolutely horrible. I mean, I can't seem to... I can almost catch a nail on it, but not enough that it like clicks or ticks or anything. Alright, our PCV. Yeah. Nothing strange there. Look down in here real quick. Valve springs. Yeah, they're little itty bitty boys. That intake valve that spins so easy. That's so weird. Looks like the exhaust valve should be on the upturn, but we'll keep digging. Haven't seen any actual carnage yet. Let's figure it out. I'm going to take a peek at the cylinder head. She's a carbony mess. A little oily too, so it was obviously burning oil along the way. Which would explain why you'd have to add oil every couple tanks of fuel. But you know, she had a lot of hours on her, and tillers, man, just like snowblowers, those are hard hours. I mean, hard hours. You run full throttle, non-stop, 4 and 5 hours at a time. Yeah, you're putting some stress on it. All right, do we? Dare we? Shall we? Let's. Case bolts everywhere in just a couple minutes. I don't. All right. Big screwdriver. Oh, yeah, that cracked it free. That cracked it free. Let's get to laying things down strategically again. Bolts out of the cover. I have already pre-drained this of oil. Basically, the minute it locked up last month, I just pulled the plug and tipped it over and then marveled at the glitter. Again, I'll try and find that footage. I don't see any sort of actual damage on the bottom of it. So we didn't toss a rod out the bottom. I'm willing to bet we just have some bearings that ate themselves alive or something. But yeah, we're going to crack this cover off and see where we get. Ooh, that's not a good sign. That's stuck in this side of it. Look at that. Right here. It's pulling the whole crank up. We might have to go in through the starter and fan side. Alright. You know what? That's a good starter spring assembly. Alright, I don't know if you can see it on here, on the shroud. I am going to see about firing up the Google machine and checking some of these numbers out. Yeah, we got a model number, got a type number, and a code number. That'll tell us all the different specs, I bet, if we go look it up on the Briggs & Stratton website. Alright, we are back. For whatever reason, this Fancy Pants Nikon, which my brother, thank you Ryan, sort of passed down to me as a second-hander, it will only record 10 minutes of continuous video at a time. I think that's because it's a DSLR photography style camera rather than a video style camera. But she takes a pretty good picture. Microphone, it could be a little better, but as we get bigger and do more things, we can get into expanding our equipment as well. Alright, let's see where she goes. Woo! I'm stuck in a situation where all of my batteries are dying, but just got that puller off the end of here. I was hoping maybe I could get this thing to come off, but that didn't work. I just mashed a hole in the middle of it, and I should have known better than to try doing that in the first place, because I was trying to pull the wrong thing from the wrong spot. That's actually a drive that's hooked up to the front of the crank snout. And I'm not seeing a good way to pull the flywheel, but we'll keep digging. We'll figure it out. Tell you what, at some point, I'm willing to bet somebody put some good stuff in this, because that old oil has a little bit of stank on it, like some race gas. This is what you were not supposed to do, ever. We're going to do it anyway. Found tool. Found this guy. Stanley framing hammer sitting in the street. Alright, again, with the battery stuff. Still trying to get charged up. Just wanted to let you see this before we went further. That case just does not want to come off. How much you want to bet this bearing up in here is seized up on the crankshaft? We're not trying to save it, so we can go ahead and break the case if we need to. But wow, when she locked up right. Still trying to get that battery charged. We're getting closer. Starting to get it so that it's pulling that bearing out. Doing exactly what you're not supposed to do. Big hammers, you know, anything we can do to leverage and wedge it out. But like I said, we don't care what happens to the case on this motor. It's junk. It's garbage. We just want to find out what died inside. Things are getting interesting now. Got this thing mounted up in the vise. And we're using brute force and pickle forks. I have a feeling it's this bearing that bit the dust while we were trying to put together a garden. And I gotta tell you, man, she smells like racetrack. I don't know what the deal is with it. You ever been someone who, you know, hung around where they're burning Cam 2 and royal purple oil in an engine? It's what she smells like. I'm thinking it might be time. Ooh. Oh, cracked the case, said the detective. Now remember, kids, this is not what you do. The things I do here are dumb sometimes. Frequently. Commonly. Something fell loose. Gasket. Alright. So, we got it to... You'll notice the bearing on the front of the crank snout, on the flywheel side, it's free. It's this bearing up here that said nope. So, we're going to see if I can't lose an eye. Oh, there she goes. Oh, goodness, what a mess. I really need to do something about all of this down here. But we're going to do something with the rest of this first. Let me explain. Hey, gang. It's the intro allergy attack. Good. I think I'm dying. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. It's okay. Ooh, allergy eyes. Editing every. Good Lord. Why did I just cut the grass? There it is, right on the back of the throat. I need a drink. Got a drink of water. Fix my allergy issues. Hopefully, you know, cutting the grass. Anyway, this video was actually begun almost exactly a year ago. It might be like the second or third thing that I shot as we were in the first 3 months of, actually 2.5 months. Yeah, 2.5 months of lockdown. Wasn't working, needed something to do, and I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't get this video finished because it became a Herculean task to try and edit it effectively from multi-camera shoots using iMovie. I wasn't adept at it. I'm still not really, but it is what it is. So, in the interest of content and appeasing the algorithm, I have dug stuff up off of the external terabyte hard drive thing. And I've been splicing stuff together all morning on my 1 day off. This is my first day off, not working somewhere in 13 days. Get out there and get something done, guys. I dug it back out off the shelf, stuck it on the bench in our professional engine stand. Dug up that cover. There's no actual bearing insert in this. There's an oil feed groove, which I want to examine a little bit with light and some tools and see what we can find. But I'm going to try and shed a little bit of light in this, and guess what? I'm still working with the same phone, but you can see that is what killed itself. I can catch the screwdriver in there. That's a groove. There is no bearing insert like you would have in an automotive bearing. This is a splash lubricated motor. We are almost looking at this upside down so that we can see where the oil path is. That oil passage, it's full of jellied metal. So yeah, just literally, I mean, that's got more glitter than, 2 trailer parks full of strippers. Now when we stand it up, you can see you've got a hole right here and a groove right here. That hole actually feeds down into the bearing. That hole feeds, you probably can't see it, but anyway, where that bearing surface is scarred up, that's where that oil hole feeds to. This one feeds to here. This vein is both cast here for stiffness and for directing oil that is splashed by the crank. There is no pressurized oiling system in this setup. And you can see where the cam rides. That's not as bad, but the cam doesn't see the load that this does, especially in a high effort environment like in a rototiller. You got the little groove right there, oil splashes up, gets caught there, feeds that cam. That's essentially the way the whole darn thing works. And that is what killed it. Age, use, and asking too much of it, and possibly me not checking the oil every 30 minutes instead of every hour. And with that, this is off of my conscience. I have this video done. It's been sitting there for ages. Hopefully the weather cooperates, time cooperates, work cooperates, and I can bring you interesting new content on a weekly basis. That said, thanks guys. Like, share, subscribe, all that crap. Have a great one. We'll see you next week.